there, and welcome to the channel. And in this video I'm going to be talking to you about those jobs that Monty Don says you must have finished by the end of April. Now, most of these jobs are absolutely spot on, although there are a couple that should be taken with a pinch of salt, and I'll explain what I mean when we get into those. But whatever you do, just don't make Monty Don angry. You wouldn't like him if he was angry. Nobody wants him coming round with his lovely, deep, dulcet tone voice and telling you what to do. Monty Don. Let's get comfortable. Right, the first job on the list is to deadhead your rhododendrons and azaleas. Now, why that is a job that has to be done by the end of April is really beyond me, because species and cultivars and hybrids of rhododendrons will be flowering really up until about the end of June, maybe a wee bit longer. But the thoughts behind it are absolutely correct. What you're trying to do is to stop your plant from diverting its energy into producing these seeds and the seed head, and to keep that energy in the plant to produce new foliage, because the blooms for next year are going to be produced on last year's or this year's growth. So by pinching them out, and you wouldn't use secateurs as he advised, and you wouldn't use shears because you'll make an absolute mess. You're going to be quite careful, and there's a certain timing where you'll have a little stem at the base of the seed pod, and that just snap off quite nicely. And once you've done that, you'll get a flush new growth coming through. So it'll encourage your rhododendron to grow larger, produce more blooms for the following spring. So as advice goes, it is quite good, although it's time consuming, a bit difficult, especially on larger specimens. And there is another helpful addition to doing this job. If you're removing old spent petals that could be hanging around, they can be an infection point for bringing fungal infections in and around the plant, and you don't want that, because if the plant struggles with environmental stress during the year, then having these fungal spores about can encourage infections to take hold. So yes, very good. Deadhead your rhododendrons. We started early, hasn't he? Deadhead those rhododendrons and azaleas. Do it by hand. Try and pick a point where it's easy to get that little basal stem to snap nicely. It's a worthwhile job. I recommend doing it too. Now, the next job that he recommends to have finished by the end of April is mulching. And do you know what? Finally, after him banging on about mulching for months now, I think it's not too bad a time to complete this job, simply because all my herbaceous is showing through, all my bulbs are up and through. I know where all the plants are, so the risk of stomping on them while I'm on the borders putting down compost is relatively low now. But this is the time to get it done, get it finished in the next week or so. Try and avoid damaging any other plants. But to be fair, I think the timing of it is now good. Alright, this next job is about getting your sweet peas out. Now, you would either have purchased them from a store somewhere, or you've grown them yourselves, because you would have germinated your seeds either last November or early spring now. But when it comes to growing sweet peas, you always have to take into consideration their taproot. You want to maintain that taproot, because the plants will establish better. You'll get a stronger plants, better flowering if you can maintain that. So you don't want them hanging around in the pots for too long. And now that the threat of late frost has passed, at least down here on the south coast where I am, you want to get them out as soon as you can to establish them quickly. Just be aware that you've got to be shooting. You just got to be aware that they are really prone to sun scorch, so you've got to harden them off first. So you would get them out the greenhouse or wherever you got them from, put them outside but out of direct sun, and over 7 to 10 days you'll give them a bit more sunlight until they're fully capable of taking full sun all day. So don't just stick them straight out into full sun. They will scorch off and you'll probably just kill those plants. So there you go, sweet peas in now. Perfect advice, thank you. Now this one is interesting, and I quite like it actually. It's not something that I would do, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. It's regarding your bulbs. Now, once your bulbs finish flowering, then they tend to the leaves will stay on for a while, then they'll start to die back, and all that nutrition, the sugars and starches, get absorbed from the leaves into the bulbs. That bulks up the bulbs, so that come the following spring, you'll have a bigger, better flowering display, which is all absolutely fine. In our garden, we just leave the bulbs where they are. It doesn't really offend me. I'm quite happy with them. But say, for example, you have a lovely formal garden, say in your London pad, and it all looks wonderful. You don't want these horrible browning, withering leaves in your formal displays, because it's gonna take away from the attractiveness of the designs. And nobody wants to see that. So what Monty Don advises is, as soon as those leaves start to die off, lift those bulbs, repot them on into another pot, and then take that pot away. Keep it in full sun, but put it somewhere else so that the plants can do their business out of sight. I don't think they're going to be as good for the following season as it would be if they were left in the ground, but there's definitely some merit to that job, so you can take it or leave it as you like. I think it's quite charming. It gives you something to do as well, if you want something to keep yourself busy, keep yourself out of the house and away from your nagging wife. The wives don't nag, I mean, I just make that up, it's not true at all. Now, if you're finding the information in this video useful, or perhaps just mildly amusing and you'd like to pass it on, then by all means press the like button. It supports this channel immensely and helps us do what we do. Don't forget, you can also click onto the subscription button. Subscription is absolutely free and you can unsubscribe at any time. It doesn't cost you anything, and if you want to be notified whenever we publish a new video, then all you need to do is click on that notification bell. Anyway, let's continue to find out what old Boyle Belt has to say. Now, strangely, both Monty Don and Alan Titchmarsh have been banging on about this job, and it's planting up lilies in pots at this time of year, so you've got a lovely floral and perfume display a bit later on. But if you go around the garden centres now, you're not going to find any lily bulbs. At least I haven't found any in the garden centres that I've visited recently. Although, of course, you will still be able to buy them online. But my view is that this is a little bit late in the year. These lilies would have been lifted months and months ago and been hanging around in your garden centres in their packs drying out. So probably, really by the end of April, probably a bit soft, not very good condition, going to give you a very weak growth and quite a poor flowering display. So I understand the sentiment behind it, producing some lovely colourful pot displays. Nothing wrong with that, but actually getting hold of some decent lily bulbs at this time of year, that's going to be a bit more difficult. You can get them online. In fact, you can probably get them online until about July, but I really wouldn't buy them at that time. They'll be absolutely ruined. However, I think I would suggest in its place is to put in calla lilies. They're absolutely gorgeous, very, very easy to grow, and it's more of a solid sort of bulbous lump that you'll be planting up. So if you can't find yourself some lilies, consider calla lilies instead. You're not going to get the scent, but you will get an absolutely gorgeous colourful display and plenty of varieties to choose from. If you're growing a lot of herbaceous plants, then you'll find that they're really starting to grow through very quickly at the moment, and many of these plants, delphiniums, lupins, any of these tall varieties, hollyhocks, you may well need some little peonies. They're a good one. They're probably going to need some support once they've reached their full height, especially if you get heavy rains that can knock them down. So now's the time to get the supports in place before they get too big and you can't get those supports in place. So it's a good timely job to do right now. Just be aware that when you're putting in supports into the ground, that you're not ripping into the root system of your herbaceous plants, because that isn't going to do them any good. And plants like your peonies do not like their roots being disturbed, so just be mindful of that one too. This next job to be completed by the end of April makes absolute common sense, and that is to put in your slug management. Now, Monty Don, you know, he only goes for organic techniques, and he's fully against using harmful slug pellets for the environment, and he keeps talking about this in various articles. The trouble is, the problem slug pellet, which we used to have with metaldehyde, which is very, very toxic, very effective, also very toxic to the wider environment. That was banned in 2022, so you can't buy it, and it's also illegal to use it. So to continue going on about it is a bit moot. Surely it's not a thing. And plus the current slug pellets, so they contain ferric phosphate. I don't find them to be very good, if I'm being honest. They're certainly not as good as the previous ones. In fact, I would rather use organic methods than put down these useless slug pellets and expect it to do a job, because you'll go back out in the morning and the slugs will still have eaten anything. However, the RHS does have 3 options for you regarding trials they have done with the organic forms of slug management, and I'll tell you what they are. In fact, there could be a 4th one, but it's something to do with what you do. Or is it? The first one is to use copper tape as a barrier. Now that works very well on pots, but obviously isn't going to work very well on your borders. The second is to use the predatory nematodes, which you need to mix up in water, water it in, but you do need to make sure that your borders are permanently wet for the nematodes to actually be able to actively move and search out those slugs. And the third one is all just down to you, to go out at night with your gloves and a torch and then search for the little buggers and then pick them off and dispose of them as you will. All the other barrier methods that people talk about, like your sharp grit, your eggshells, your wool, trials by the RHS have shown that those are crap. Oh yes, I did say 4, didn't I? So we're looking at attracting the natural predators of slugs into your garden and let them do the work for you. So we're talking about bringing in hedgehogs, thrushes, frogs and toads. So for example, if you are particularly fond of growing hostas, and who wouldn't, because they are absolutely gorgeous, then you could consider applying to them by a pond, and then the frogs and the toads will come out, eat the slugs. You no longer have a slug problem there. Got any other great tips? Put that in the comments, because I think English gardeners are desperate for them. Nearly at the end. Right, this next job is weeding, which is just the same as every month. Just try and make sure that you remove your weeds before they flower, because once they flower they will soon be producing seed, and those seeds will be flying around the garden and you'll have even more weeding to do. So always do that as a timely job, whatever month of the year you are in. And this last one, it's more of a thing to not do, according to Monty Don, and that is to not cut your lawns too short, because they're not growing vigorously as they would be doing during the late spring and summer. But the thing is, it's April, the lawns are flushing now, which means they are vigorously growing, but he recommends only cutting your lawns back by 1/3 each time. Well, if you're going to be cutting back your lawns by 1/3 each time, you could be cutting it every 2-3 days, and nobody wants to do that, do they? So don't cut it too low to start off with, especially at the beginning of April, but we're at the end of April. If you've got moss, and again, increase your rye height, because the sponginess of your moss can allow the wheels to drop into it, and then you could get scalping. So don't cut your lawns too low just yet. And going back to moss, if moss is an issue, then why not put down a moss killer? It is April, the grass is actively growing. You're perfectly entitled to put down moss killers now, but like I say, Monty Don, he doesn't like using any chemicals in the garden, and that's absolutely fine. I'm not judging him. I'm just saying that if you've got a moss problem and your lawn looks awful and you're cutting it and you're scalping it, then just put it down. It's only ferrous sulfate. It's not a particularly big issue, but that's just my opinion. Everybody is entitled to their own wrong opinions. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that, and if you've got any other great April jobs that should be finished by now, put that in the comments. I would love to hear from you, and those others who do read the comments would also like to read them too. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Right, now, just before you go, if you want to see more content, more behind the scenes stuff, and images that I've taken of some weird freaky plants over the years, then you're in luck, because we've created an Instagram page. So you can find the link in our description. You can find the link on our main page, and if you're clever enough, I might be able to get a link somewhere up there. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you want to see more YouTube stuff, then check out this video here. That's quite a good one. And if it doesn't float your boat, then another one right there. And enjoy these while I've still got the strength, imagination and aptitude to make them. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.